Yes.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you. We will start with file number 4, that is E2022-8, Chapter 27.
And I've just handed out to City Council a substitute ordinance for item number 4. I was informed by Susan Johnson-Velez that there was a scrivener's error in the ordinance that's on the agenda, so that if you move forward with this today, please move forward with the substitute ordinance that I just passed out. I gave a copy to the clerk as well. Thank you.
Which item?
Abby and/or Susan Johnson-Velez should be here to introduce the item. I believe we have the petitioners of council here. I do not know where.
Do you want to consent?
Hold on just a second. I believe that she'll be here in a second.
Vieira's not here.
If you all want to move to staff reports, we could come back to
I
number
was
4.
going to, but Councilman Vieira's not here, so let's go with staff reports. Parks and Recreations, Councilman Goods, 9 through 11. Motion made by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Councilwoman Hurtak, Public Works, items 12 through 25.
Yes. I'd like to move items 12 through 25.
Motion made by Councilwoman Hurtak, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Councilman Carlson, Building and Zoning, 32 through 43.
What about finance committee?
26.
Where's?
26.
26.
I was going to get back to that.
Oh,
Okay, I'd like to move 32 through 43.
Second.
Trying to get,
With the exception of 41.
Exception of item number 41, which was,
Except 41.
which was to, all right, all in favor?
aye.
I'm sorry. Councilman Miranda, Finance,
Item 25 has been moved to July's agenda, so I'll move 26, 28 through,
made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
record 27 was one that was continued to July.
I did that, I said that.
All right, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Where are we at? I'm sorry, let's go back to Councilman Councilman Vieira.
I hereby move items 5 through 8.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Transportation Committees, item 44 and 45.
I move
Council-
items 44 and 45.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by
Lynn Hurtak.
Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So we have an ordinance, item number 4, I think Ms. Johnson-Velez is here. I've handed out the substitute ordinance already, and the clerk has a substitute ordinance already as well. So,
All right, going back to agenda item 4, E2022-8, Chapter 27.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of council. Susan Johnson-Velez, Legal Department. This ordinance is presented to you in response to an application that the city received from the K-Bar Ranch 2 Community Development District. Some of you may be familiar with community development districts. They are local units of special purpose government that provide maintenance and ownership for certain infrastructure within communities. And so this particular community development district is the third within K-Bar Ranch. It was established in 2017, and because of a sale of land, the CDD is requesting to contract or, pull in the boundaries, remove about 100 acres from the boundaries of the community development district. There is an application currently pending with the city for establishment of another community development district which would absorb this land as part of, in conjunction with further development by another party. And so Mr. David Jackson, who is a representative of the K-Bar 2 CDD is here if you have any questions. But if you decide to read the ordinance, I would ask that you use the ordinance that Mr. Massey has passed out to read the title.
I have a question if I may.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you, sir. I see a note here, and I spoke to Mr. Massey on this. I usually review the agenda very detailed, but I've been sick this week, so I guess I get a whatever it is. I see a note here from Betty Valiente on concerns regarding the maintenance obligation. What's that about?
That is, there was a concern from the city that the CDD responded to for maintenance in the gap between the establishment of the new CDD and the contraction of these lands from the existing CDD. And so the board of the existing CDD has acknowledged in that letter that they will continue to perform the maintenance obligations for the lands and the infrastructure on these 100 acres until such time as the new CDD is created. And so that is addressed within the ordinance that you have before you as well.
So there's no objection from the CDD at all? And I guess,
No, we actually filed the petition, so.
that's what I thought. Okay, I
yeah,
was gonna,
yeah.
I don't know if I
And
read
it's-
that wrong.
And it's raw, undeveloped land at this point, so this is
Cool.
really just kind of procedural. You can't be in two
May I have your
CDDs at
name,
once.
please?
Oh, I'm sorry, David Jackson.
Thank you.
Representing the K-Bar Ranch to Community Development District.
Great.
You can't be in two CDDs at once, so we gotta get out of two,
Sure.
and then they're gonna stop, actually, the application's already in, as Ms. Johnsonville has mentioned, for CDD
Great.
3, so.
I think part of the city's concern was there's a plat pending for a roadway segment that's going to be within the area that's being contracted out of the CDD. So the city wanted to be assured that if for some reason the creation of the new CDD was delayed, the existing CDD would remain responsible for any maintenance that would occur as a result of that, so.
That's cool.
Correct.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that, and everyone, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councilman Vieira, you've worked very hard on this. Would you like to read this resolution?
I really haven't worked hard on this.
I thought K-Bar was a.
Well,
was
it is in my area, but I'm glad to. Do I read this section here? or-
Yes.
Okay, sure. Is it?
Yeah.
If
Okay,
you-
sorry.
if you-
Substitute ordinance.
Again, I'm 25% slower than I usually am today. An ordinance of the city of, I move an ordinance of the city of Tampa, Florida, authorizing the boundary amendment for the K-Bar Ranch 2 Community Development District, providing for the amendment of the boundaries of the district by removing parcels of land that will not be served by the district after the creation of the K-Bar Ranch 3 Community Development District, which will result in a net reduction of 102.778 acres MOL for a total of 757.799 acres, compromising of the city of Tampa Hillsborough, compromising the district and situated entirely within the boundaries of the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, said district being generally located north of Cross Street Boulevard, west of Morris Bridge Road, east of Bruce B. Downs Boulevard, and south of the Pasco, Hillsborough County line. The amended boundary being more particularly described in Section 2 hereof pursuant to Chapter 190 Florida statutes, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second, and that's a substitute.
That is the substitute.
Excellent. Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Yes.
Miranda, Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 14, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Move to set 46 and 47, public hearings.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goos. All in favor?
And then move to open items 49 through 54.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Aye. At this time, anybody is going to be giving any, excuse me, what am I trying to say?
Evidence.
Evidence, thank you. If anybody's trying to give any type of evidence today, Mr. Teeth and Mr. Tongue are not working together. Please rise so you can be sworn in. Is that all that's going to give evidence today? Is that all that's going to give evidence today?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 46, file number F22-75-284. 46.
No, we set the public hearing.
I'm sorry, 49.
49.
File number EZ 20228, chapter 22.
Good afternoon, Council. Abby Feely, Deputy Administrator, Development and Economic Opportunity. Number 49 on your agenda, this is the second reading for the Lift Up Local Ordinance. This is changing Chapter 22 to allow for street cafes. We did a full presentation on first reading. I'm happy to provide any additional information or answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Councilman Carlson.
49, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
I'd like to move file number E.
Public comment.
I'm sorry, is there any public comment?
Move to close.
Motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes, I'd like to move file number E 2022-8 CH22, ordinance being presented for second reading adoption. An ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida relating to street cafes, making revisions to City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 22, Streets and Sidewalks, amending Section 22-5, definitions, amending Section 22-223, Administrative Authority, amending Section 22-224, establishment authorized to operate sidewalk cafes, application criteria, review and approval procedures, amending Section 22-225, permit issuance, amending Section 22-226, conditions of permit, amending Section 22-227, operational guidelines, amending Section 22-228, revocation or suspension of permit, amending Section 22-229, permit renewal, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing effective date.
Motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes,
Motion carried unanimously.
thank you. Agenda item number 50, file number TACPA 22-05.
Good afternoon, Council. Abby Feely again. This is the second reading for the Jackson Heights Cemetery. This was the land use change, taking it from public, semi-public to rec and open space, which is something you've been doing with several of your parks and cemeteries in order to bring things in conformance and protect against future development.
Any comments or questions? Anyone in the public would like to speak to this? Any public comment? Motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. I have an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance amending the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Element, Future Land Use Map for the property located at 3600 East Lake Avenue, otherwise known as Jackson Heights Cemetery, from public, semi-public, PSP, to recreation open space, ROS, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in roll call vote.
Goods,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Councilman Carlson, you abstained from this next one last time.
Yes.
Are you going to do that again?
Yes, please, and could I please make a motion to file my Form 8B? The firm to which I am retained as a client that is connected to this matter, although my firm and I are not involved in any way in this matter, application, my vote could be seen as in some way helping a client of my firm, therefore I abstain. So I make a motion to accept the form.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
File number VAC 22-15. 51. Ah, there you are. Can't hear you. You're muted.
Ross, you need to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
It was Ross Amos, Development Coordination. This is the second reading for a proposed vacating request at Whiting Street, located south Washington Street, north of Broreen, east of Hillsborough River, and west of Ashley Street. Available if you have any questions.
Any comments or questions? Anyone in the public that would like to speak to this? Do we have anybody online? Thank you
Second.
very much. Move to close by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
File number VAC 22-15, Ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning that portion of Whiting Street right-of-way located south Washington Street, north of Rain Street, east of the Hillsborough River, and west of Ashley Street, as more fully described in Section 2 hereof, subject to certain covenants, conditions, and restriction as more particularly set forth herein, providing for an enforcement and penalties for violations, providing for definitions, interpretations, and repealing conflicts, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
I have a motion made by Councilwoman Hurtak, second by Councilman Maniscalco. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Viera.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Hurtak.
Yes.
Carlson. Goods.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Carlson abstaining.
Thank you. 52 on the agenda, file number REZ 21-131.
Thanks so much, Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 52, case REZ 21-131. This being presented for second reading and adoption at the location 5406 North Pershing Place. Proposed rezoning from RS50 Residential Single Family to PD Planned Development Residential Single Family Detached. Site plans were dropped off to City Council Tuesday. I'm here for any questions.
Are there any questions for staff? I see none. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Milagros Guevara. I am representing the address 5406 The Pershing Place. Thank you for the proof, the rezoning, if it's possible.
Thank you. Any questions to the applicant? Anyone in public comment that would like to ask any questions, make a comment? Anyone online?
Move to close. Second.
Motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Goods.
Order been presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance rezoning the property in the general vicinity of 5406 North Pershing Place in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RS50 residential single family to PD planned development residential single family detached, providing effective date.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Hurtak.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Viera.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 53, file number REZ 22-25.
Thanks so much, Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. This is being presented for second reading and adoption at the location 1715 West Powhatan Avenue. Proposed rezoning from RS60 Residential Single Family to RS50 Residential Single Family. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any questions of staff? Seeing none. Petitioner?
Move close.
Second.
Motion closed by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move item number 53, file number REZ 22-25. An ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 1715 West Powhatan Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RS60 residential single family to RS50 residential single family, providing an effective date.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Vieira. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Carlson.
Yes.
Hurtak.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Viera.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 54, file number REZ 22-62.
Thanks so much, Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. This is being presented for second reading and adoption at the locations 2408 North Himes Avenue, 3604 Beach Street, and 3606 Beach Street. Proposed rezoning from RS50 Residential Single Family to RM16 Residential Multifamily. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any questions of staff?
I'll defer presentation, both the planning commission and the zoning staff are in support. But I'll be happy to go through the presentation if you like.
Any questions for the applicant? Is there anyone in chambers? Do we have anybody online?
Second.
Motion closed by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Vieira.
Yes, sir. My pleasure.
I move an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity, 2408 North Himes Avenue, 36 and 3604 Beach Street, and 3606 Beach Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS 50 residential single family to RM 16 residential multifamily, providing an effective date.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Miranda.
Yes.
Hurtak.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. I think that clears off our agenda.
46 and 47?
No, we've done that already.
No, we're done.
You sure? You want to do them again? Okay. Okay. Information and reports. Councilman Carlson.
Two, please, if I could. Like to make well, let me preface this by saying, you all may have seen, especially in South Tampa, there are a lot of flyers being dropped in front of homes that are anti-Semitic. And I would just like to ask staff to report back to council on July 8th with ideas on how to reduce the anti-Semitic attacks / communication in our community.
14?
July 28th.
28.
Did I say July 4th? Sorry. July 28th.
Motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye.
Second one, I think Currency has started sending us all the public records, the log of the public records requests. But what I think I've discovered in that is that the verbal requests are not being included, at least not the verbal requests that are being made to the legal department. And as you may know, by bar rules, the legal department cannot talk to the media without getting their client's approval. In this case, one of their clients is city council. So in order for the legal department to have a conversation with a reporter, they would have to get city council to vote to approve if it's a matter that pertains to city council. And by extension, it would be any individual city council member, because a matter that affects an individual city council member could have a negative impact on city council as a whole, as we've seen the last few months. So I'd like to make a motion to ask legal to return to council on August 4th with a proposed ordinance to require the legal department to log all verbal public records requests in the city central records request system, obviously omitting any requester names if the applicant is anonymous.
Second,
I believe that the legal department is already doing that. We have not, my understanding is that all requests that we've received, we do put through GovQA. Now, people can request public records verbally. They don't have to identify themselves. They don't have to identify what the purpose of the request is, so that there is that avenue, so we can't just ignore a verbal request.
Yeah, so my point is just that it be in the log, and I can go through the specific ones that are not in there, at least I couldn't find, if you'll want to. But if someone's making a public records request about anything, but in particular about city council, I think it should be disclosed in the log book. An example is legal was asked for an ethics report regarding former council member Dingfelder. A reporter asked for that, and as far as I could tell, that request is not logged in the system. In the week that charges were made against Councilmember Goods, his HR file was disseminated to the public. I could not find that a public records request was made for that. So if a public records request was not made, then somebody voluntarily gave it out. I also could not find a public records request for the invoice from Trenum Law. Interesting that Tom Gonzalez also was a law firm that was involved. I didn't see a public records request for either one of them, but somehow the $100,000 bill for Trenum Law ended up being all over the media. So I'd just like to make sure if the legal department says they're fully complying, that means that somebody voluntarily disseminated this information. Otherwise, I would just like to pass an ordinance to require since legal department in part represents city council as the charter is now, that they simply log it. It's for, the mayor said she wants transparency and accountability, so let's just make sure that the legal department logs all of these so we can see who's, if the person says they want to be anonymous, then they don't have to put the name in there, but at least we know that somebody's requested the information.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Kate Wells for the record. I can personally attest that every public records request that was handled with regard to Councilman Good's matter was publicly logged. I handled all of those requests. I reviewed all the documents before they went out. So those requests were received in writing. They were opened in GovQA, and GovQA will identify when all of the requests were complied with. So I don't know where you're getting your information, but I know how I handled all of those requests.
Do you think, is it, and we can talk about this offline, but in the case of, and sorry to talk about this in front of you, but in the case of his HR file, was it?
That would have gone through TPD. So TPD has a separate GovQA system, so it could be that you're not seeing what goes out under TPD.
And what about the Trenum invoice?
We were asked to provide a complete copy of the entire investigative report, including all materials that were provided to us, and that invoice was included in the materials that were provided to everyone that made that request. It wasn't a specific request for the invoice. We were asked to provide all documents as related to the investigation.
I'll withdraw my motion at this time, but I would just remind the city attorney's office that in part they represent city council, and if they happen, when I've asked about documents being leaked, they say it's not leaked, it's a public records request, but I don't find it on the public records request form. And so I would like to see transparency because, by bar rules, the city attorney's office cannot talk about city council to the media without getting city council to vote to allow that. And giving documents voluntarily to the media would be a breach of Florida bar rules as well. And so just going forward, I'll be watching carefully, and I hope all of you will too, that nobody's trying to undermine city council. Thank you.
I think the whole purpose of GovQA
please,
is to
Councilman
provide for that transparency that everybody is entitled to. So again, I don't know where your information is coming from, but these public records requests are logged. In the event that someone reaches our office, requests a document, and they don't want to go through GovQA, we then send an email to the clerk's office to open up a matter in GovQA.
It's just suspicious whether it was the legal department or communications department.
If I can finish, please?
Sure.
So Carencia will open up a matter in GovQA. They are assigned a tracking number that starts with PRR, and that allows everybody to understand how quickly the responses are being provided, what was requested, and when the response was provided. So we appreciate the fact that we're enhancing the city's portal for the processing of public records so that it is a completely transparent process.
Yeah, it's just interesting that on a particular day, like 5 media outlets at the same time found out about the Trenum invoice. I don't know if they saw Tom Gonzalez invoice, but they found out about that, and the headline is $100,000 spent. And so first of all, I get complaints all the time from people in the public that it takes 60 days to get public records requests. Somehow these were prepared and sent out. And I would just remind the city attorney's office that one of their clients is Tampa City Council. And if the city attorney's office sees a conflict between its 3 clients, that we resolve those with city council sitting as a body, and that information not be released to the public without disclosing it, or media without disclosing it in these logs, so that we in the public can see that and see that it's not a political attack, that it's response to a request. Thank you.
Did you ask the media how they got the information?
Yeah, yes.
Did they give you an answer?
Yeah, they said that the communication department was pushing out the information. The communication department was pushing, this is what they said, the communication was pushing out, they had 7 days of information that was, I mean, their opinion is that it was a pre-prepared hit where information was being pushed out any day. And I'm saying this because any one of us, if we vote against the wrong thing, could suddenly get attacked. And we have to rely on legal advice. I don't know about you all, but with the subpoenas and public records requests, I've gotten them up to like $15,000 in responding to them because I'm trying to be thorough. And some of you have had your personal phone scanned by the IT department. There's a lot of strange things going on, and we need to make sure that we can rely on our legal department, at the very least, the communication department doesn't report to us, and if they want to text city council and the mayor tells them to, that's fine, I guess. But the legal department, one of their clients is Tampa City Council. They may not represent us individually, but with the Dingfelder situation, we all got subpoenas because of it.
Right.
And so the point is that the legal department can't say, well, we didn't represent Dingfelder, and so we throw him under the bus and allow him to get sued, and then we and that doesn't affect our client. Their client was affected because all of us got subpoenas and all of us had to respond to it. It takes time, stress, and money to respond to these things, and the legal department needs to take city council, their client, into their best interest and make sure we're working on our behalf. Thank you.
Well, again, please, I don't have this information from the media. No, Councilman Carlson, I don't have this information from the media. If you would like to have your media friends or the people that you know in the media to send me this information stating that, I will get with the legal department and find out what's going on. As far as the subpoena, I handed in my phone before I was subpoenaed because I have nothing to hide. Councilman Goods.
Look, it's the old playbook. You guys have never worked in city government. I have. I know the playbook. And I can tell you on me, and I can't go into details, but it was a personal attack. I don't care what anybody says. I know the playbook. I've been around here. I've seen it done before. You know, I've gotten out to employees who've come to me and told me things. So I already know what the deal is. But I don't run from things. I just deal with them head on. And after this whole matter is concluded, I'm going to be making a motion in reference to how city council is handled. Secret investigations and things like that, I think is unethical. I think council members need to be notified. I believe that the city attorney who represents us as well as the mayor, I don't think we get the same treatment as the administration does. And I think it's wrong. And again, I'll deal with that after the conclusion of all my matters are taken care of, because I think there is a big gap gray area when it deals with the city attorneys, because the city attorney is appointed by the mayor. We just approve it. So who is your boss? And that's the way I feel. I honestly feel that way. And again, when my things are concluded, I'm going to be looking into some things, because I think what happened to me was wrong.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
I'm just going to say this. I was also asked, I went and took my phones in, and I had two phones. They asked me, how come you got two phones? I said, in case I lose it, that when I put one phone in the house, I don't know where it's at, because I put something over it. I dial my other number, and I answer the phone. That way I can find my phone. That was number one. They can check anything they want, anytime they want. I don't care if they want to ask the media whatever they want on me. In fact, I was going to ask you, Mr. Carlson, to give you the numbers of those people that you may know to investigate all of us. So that way the air is cleared. Ours, the mayor, the city council, they should investigate all of us, every single one of us. And let me tell you one thing I learned in life, and I said this before. Never accuse my father's last name. So I'm asking, investigate my father and investigate me, because we got the same last name. And investigate all of us. And one thing about me, if I'm accused of something and I'm innocent and I know that I'm innocent, I don't give a damn what I got to sell to protect myself. I'm going to go fight it until I'm dead ass broke. And somehow I'm going to get reimbursed. That's if I know that I'm innocent. So that's all I'm going to say about myself. I ain't talking about anyone else. I ain't talking about anybody's lawsuit but my own. If they want to come investigate me and I've done something wrong, come on, baby, I'm waiting on you.
And I Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
I agree with you that if someone's innocent, the city attorney has accused me of several things to the media, which was inappropriate and a violation of Florida bar rules. And it was outside her area of expertise, and she did not consult proper counsel on those matters. And I did, and my situation is completely fine. I've provided all the information that everybody wanted. The point is that when your own attorney is not working on your behalf, you need to be able to rely on your attorney to represent you adequately. And when your attorney has a conflict with 3 different clients and favors one client over the other, then that's a problem. And we see information being leaked in the Dingfelder case and the Goods case. We see the city attorney speaking out of school. Imagine you hire an attorney and your attorney goes to the media and says something without your approval. That's exactly what's happened. The city attorney did not come to city council and request permission to speak on behalf of any city council members, to speak on any cases. It's different. The city attorney has bar guidelines they have to follow. And if they don't follow those guidelines, there are repercussions for that. But one of their clients is city council. And at some point, if these attacks continue, I'm gonna ask for a motion to ask the Florida Bar to come in and stop this. The city attorney cannot work against city council and not work against individual city council members because even individual city council situations affect all city council. And we're all fully complying and submitting all the information for all the things that we're getting, and I expect to be reimbursed at some point. As to the media that Ms. Chitro asked, look at the stories about Orlando Goods or John Dingfelder and call all the media. You know, why is it that certain media get tips of things that nobody would know existed in advance of everybody else? Because somebody is working the system to try to attack, and the legal department should not be involved in that. The communications department should not be involved in it. The political advisors of the mayor should not be involved in it. The mayor herself should. Do you know I sat with the mayor in February, and I was talking to her about the pure system, and you know what her response to me was? You don't fill out your ethics forms correctly. And I said, what are you talking about? I said, the mayor of this city had read all 32 of my ethics forms. And by the way, I've gotten opinions from 3 different attorneys at the Ethics Commission. My forms are fine. And I said to the chief of staff, why is it that the mayor of the city knows what all 32 of my ethics forms say? Because she was sitting in a meeting where somebody was planning a political attack against me. That is disgusting. We need to stop it. The only way we can represent the citizens of this community, instead of sitting in meetings planning attacks against city council, we need to be solving problems like affordable housing.
I'm not going to let this city and this council come out with 2 black eyes. This city's been going forward, and there's a cloud hanging over us forget about the rainfall. I want the numbers of the authorities that you say you know, so I can call them in to do an investigation, including mine. All of us. That's what I want, sir. Give me the numbers, if you have them. Just give me the numbers and I'll call.
Law enforcement is investigating.
Well, tell me who do I call?
It takes a long time.
I don't know who it is.
I'm chairman. Give me your numbers, give me your evidence, and I'll make the phone call.
Call the media that covered the issue.
Who are the media?
Look.
Just give me names. And
TV,
I will write a letter to them.
They disseminate to every TV
DOJ.
station.
I'll write a letter to Andrew Warren.
You have to look at.
Submit your evidence. Let's go forward. Let's go forward. Are you finished?
All I want is clarity. I just want transparency. I want the people in Tampa to understand clarity, honestly. And I'm not saying anybody's dishonest, but I want to take this dark cloud out of the city.
If you want the dark cloud out of the city, ask the mayor to stop. The mayor needs to come here and apologize to city council for telling her staff to attack city council, and they need to stop it. She needs to tell them to stop. This is unacceptable.
Give me the numbers and I'll call.
Look at the media. Forward. Have you not seen the stories where the mayor's been attacking?
Councilman Carlson, please.
I don't follow media.
I have one more thing to say. There was a police officer a couple weeks ago that was charged with 100 counts of child pornography. Did you see the mayor release this person's HR file? Did you see the mayor spend $100,000 investigating? Did you see the mayor hold a press conference and send out a press release to condemn this person? No. How is it that 100 counts of child pornography is not a terrible, disgusting thing? But you didn't see the mayor go out and attack this person and try to get all kinds of publicity and send out 7 days of publicity. There was another police officer that was in a crash the other day with a DUI. Did the mayor spend $100,000 to investigate this person? Did the mayor send out a press release and hold a press conference to attack this person? No.
That is of interest to all of us. However, let's go back. Let's not sideline ourselves. Let's talk about the 8 elected officials. Investigate us all, from the day we were born to now. Let's see what happens.
Councilman Vieira, do you have anything?
Mr. Chairman, can I please just clarify a few things about the public records process?
Briefly, please.
I'll be brief. Andrea Zellman, Deputy City Attorney. I'm particularly interested in this topic because I've spent the last year and a half working with a committee and with staff to improve upon our public records process. And in fact, I can tell you that the new public records staff who are going to take over the process within the next few weeks are planning to make a presentation to council. We're trying to find a date sometime in July to explain the new process to you. I would also suggest that every one of you read the new public records manual. It's online. We emailed it to you. It's called the City of Tampa Public Records Policy and Guide, and it explains how the process works. I do want to clarify, I know Councilman Carlson, you had emailed about this the other day. You were looking at a report and questioning why certain public record requests weren't on it. The report you were looking at was a snapshot in time. GovQA produces, I believe, 7-day and then 30-day open and closed public records requests reports, but that wouldn't show you public records files that were closed prior to that 30-day period. So for instance, you asked about the Trenum investigation. Those public records requests were received in March, responded to in March, and wouldn't be on the 30-day report that came out this week because that was more than 30 days ago. So, if you want, you can get a year-to-date report, whatever, but you need to understand, you need to look at the dates of what you're looking at to understand what you were looking at, I should say. But as far as our office representing you, let me say first, you are not the only ones that are the target of public records requests. Ask Gina Grimes how many times her cell phones were brought over to T&I to be searched. Ask the mayor how many times she's gotten these very personal public records requests. We review all of them. Our duty under the Public Records Act is to produce records. It's not to advise you individually on how to withhold records or whatever. We certainly do provide advice and are glad to provide it to any one of you and any other official or City of Tampa employee about what exemptions may apply, what does constitute a public record and what doesn't. I'm not saying that everything is a public record. Everything doesn't have to be turned over necessarily if it doesn't meet the statutory definition of a public record, but we provide that same advice to everyone. We make ourselves available to each one of you and to every City of Tampa employee. And again, the council members are not the only ones. I can attest to that because I've been assisting with some of the incredible volume of public records requests that the city has been receiving in the last few months. Has the City of Tampa's public records process been weaponized? I think in some cases it has, but it certainly isn't just for you all. It's happening to all of us. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever, depending on your perspective, we can't discriminate based on the motives behind the public records request or who made the public records request. They all have to be complied with. So I can tell you, it's not just you that's responding to all these public records requests, it's all of us. And one final comment, because I can't let this hang out there unresponded to. Our office did not leave Councilman Dingfelder hanging or throw him under the bus. We explained to him in great detail, sent him a written memo, a copy of which was provided to all of you about the legal standard that governs the question of whether the city has an obligation or a duty to defend an official or an employee when they're sued in their individual capacity. Our response to him was consistent with Hillsborough County policy, with Leon County policy, with state statute, with prior City of Tampa cases. If someone commits an act for which they're individually sued in the course, while performing their official duties and responsibilities and did it for a public purpose, then the city may, but is not obligated to, pay for their defense. Because that's often a gray area at the beginning of a lawsuit, what all the jurisdictions I just mentioned do, and what the city told Mr. Dingfelder we would do, is suggest he get a private attorney, and if ultimately he prevailed and was able to show that the acts for which he was sued were acts that he performed in the course and scope of his official duties and that he took the actions for a public purpose, then the city would reimburse his legal fees. That's the standard. It's statewide. It's state law. In fact, when we met with Mr. Dingfelder, he said, "You're right. I remember that from when I was at the county." So I hate seeing this false narrative hanging out there that somehow we threw him under the bus, because it's just not fair to our office. But again, on public records, we're going to be making a presentation next month. We'll be glad to answer any of your questions in public, in private, about how public records requests are responded to, are handled. But as I believe Maura said, and I think Kate explained also, we do the same thing that we direct every other city employee or official to do, and that is when a public records request comes in, ask the person to put it in through GovQA. If they won't do it, take the request and forward it. Have there been occasions when someone at the city gave somebody something without going through that process? Perhaps, but if so, that was the exception to the rule. It doesn't mean that the rule isn't followed 99% of the time. So I just want to clarify that because I feel as if there's some inaccuracies hanging out here.
Councilman Carlson.
Thank you. Just quickly, I could say a lot of things to respond, but 2 data points. September, October, I don't remember exactly, there's a Times article, and an attorney threatens to sue Councilmember Dingfelder. Councilmember Dingfelder says, I'm going to fully comply with the request, and there's no reason for me to be sued. I'm paraphrasing. The city attorney then says, if he gets sued, we're not going to defend him.
I don't think that was what she said.
That is. Let's look it up. And so
I remember the quote, and I believe it said something to the effect of, if he didn't comply with the Public Records Act.
But the point is that this city council did not vote to allow her to say that. And that is a Florida bar violation, because that 3-4 days later he got sued. And that caused months of public records requests and subpoenas against this city council, which is the client of the city attorney. The second thing is that, and I'll paraphrase again, but when I met, each of us met with the city attorney's office to hear the whole dossier on why Dingfelder was guilty, even though I still disagree with it. But part of it was I asked you and John Bennett and Dossie and Gina were there, and I said, how did the Business Journal get a copy of this ethics opinion on John Dingfelder, and not only found out about it, but found out about it on the day that he resigned. And the city attorney said, and I'm paraphrasing, but said, I got a call from the reporter, and I was talking to the reporter, and the reporter said, did you know Dingfelder resigned? And she said, no. And she said, well, have you been talking to him? She said, yes. Well, what have you been talking about? I've been talking about other things. And by saying that she was talking about other things, allegedly it caused the Business Journal to file a public records request, which we responded to on Monday, not 60 days later, but on Monday, and giving away this document. So after the Friday story that Dingfelder resigned, Monday he got another negative story that had nothing to do with the lawsuit, by the way, but it was just something to disparage him. And so the point there is that, in effect, it looked like somebody on the outside might say that the city attorney is supposed to be representing city council offered a document to the reporter, but somehow that reporter found out without a public records request. And I've seen the logs going back a couple months, but if there is a log where that reporter asked for certain documents and that one came up, then I'll come back here and say, look, I was wrong. But the city attorney's office cannot work against individual city council members and cannot work against the city council. Sure, we have to follow law, and we absolutely have to fulfill public records requests. But there's a nuance there where people have to understand that you can't, for political purposes, throw somebody under the bus. Thank you.
I agree that we have to represent the city council. I don't agree with your characterization of what Ms. Grimes told you. It's not uncommon for reporters to get wind that something's out and to ask for it. And if it's something readily available, and the public records policy talks about this, sometimes you just turn it over quickly rather than make them go through the process. Yesterday, one of you sent a memo out within an hour. Justin Garcia was at the clerk's office asking for a copy of that memo. Justin Garcia of Creative Loafing. Obviously, someone told him this memo was out. I don't know who. And the clerk's office said, well, should I give it to him or does he have to go through the process? I said, just give it to him. There's going to be exceptions to the rule. We don't always make people go through the whole process. And again, it's not uncommon in the media world for them to get tips. Who they're getting it from, I don't know, but obviously that, in that case, it sounds as if the reporter knew enough to ask Gina for whatever it was she had. So, but again, the exception doesn't mean that the rule isn't followed 99% of the time.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you, sir. I have a few motions, if I may. I had done a motion for a Mayor's Veterans Alliance, turning to something more sublime, I guess. For the, sorry again, I'm slow over here today. And I did not put a date for this to come back. If I may, I wish for it just to come back for an administration report on July 28th, and a written report is fine.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Then also, this is a CRA matter, but I also think it's a city, something with the city. I met with Walter Smith, who many of you all know, and I'm looking at seeing how the CRA and the city of Tampa can partner up to provide some funding to support the Dr. Walter L. Smith Library. And, you know, each side has different roles to play. I've met with Jesus, with our CRA on that, and things seem to be positive, but each side has different roles to play. So I'd request that this come back at the July 28th regular session, and if it needs to be moved for more time, we can do that.
Do we want to go through CRA first?
No, because I'm looking at it, Mr. Chairman, through both lens. The city could have a role to play with ongoing funding, and I'll tell you what, let me, if I may, I'll push this to the last date in July, whatever, in August, I'm sorry, August. If that works.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
And then last thing, Councilman Carlson spoke about this issue with the flyers. I'd actually been working, and this can complement this if you're fine with it, Councilman, for a resolution condemning anti-Semitism in light of that, and that can come back on the date that you had mentioned, sir. If you'd be amenable to that. I've been working with some folks in the Jewish American community, whatever date we had for Councilman Carlson's. There you go, if that's okay.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Council.
Councilman Maniscalco.
First, happy birthday to you. I know it's tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yes. And I think that's it. Thank you.
You're not going to tell them how nice you look for being 28?
Which, by the way, go ahead, and I'll finish off. Councilwoman Hurtak.
I'm good.
Councilman Goods.
Man, my blood pressure up my head hurt already, man.
I don't have any blood pressure left.
You know, the recent violence we have been taking in our city, gun violence is very, very high. But there was one young lady, and I know her mother because I used to be the resource officer at Robinson High School, and she would get ready to go to work. She said, Officer G, you want anything? I'm going to go to the barbecue shop. And I'd say sometime yay, sometime no. And this young lady followed the trade of her mother, trying to help people, trying to help public servants. Families well known, Big John Alabama Barbecue. So I'd like to make a motion for the administration to investigate and install a memorial bench at Julian B. Lane Park in honor of Miss Savannah Mathis, who lost her life at a very young age due to senseless gun violence. Ms. Mathis was very active in the community, as well as a rising star in Tampa. However, I'm extremely heartbroken as she did not get a chance to completely live out her dreams. Therefore, I thought it would be fitting to dedicate a memorial bench honoring Savannah.
A motion made by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
And you bring it back, July 21st, 2020. July 21? 28th? Okay.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that passing away of a young lady named Terry Sanchez. Terry Sanchez was one of the most cordial, wonderful, loving individuals. She worked for many years for then State Representative Elvin Martinez, and the last 10 or 12 years she's worked in the office handling all the affairs of, some of the affairs of Congresswoman Kathy Castor. And she was a woman that helped anyone. I never, ever seen her in any way get upset. She would certainly frown if she listened to us today. And she is just a beautiful person. And her passing means a lot. And later on, I'll be see what I could do to place a bench or something on her behalf. And I don't want to do that today.
Second.
But I appreciate it very much for consideration. Thank you.
Is this Terry Sanchez on Ohio Street? Or
Yes,
right by,
yes, right behind me.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been to her house. Nice, wonderful person.
Yep.
Motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye. I just want to hold it. Yeah.
She passed away. Good lady.
Okay. Cool.
I'll do another one for the date. Thank you.
Okay.
may I forgot, it's not a motion, just to say, may I?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I sent out a memo just reminding all council members about Camp Hopataki, in case if anybody wants to come on Friday evening, and also wishing all of y'all who are fathers out there a happy Father's Day.
Thank you,
Including stepfather.
You have a child now? Yes, Trinity and Faith Ministries is having their anniversary this Saturday, and I would like to present a commendation on behalf of City Council.
Second.
We have a motion from Chairman Citro, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else?
Yes, just so that you're all aware, Denver City Council President, Ms. Gilmore, I am going to make a friendly wager with her on the Stanley Cup. And the wager will go is, if the Avalanche win, I will have to wear an Avalanche jersey the first meeting after the Stanley Cup is over. And when the Lightning win, she will have to wear a Lightning jersey at their first council after the Stanley Cup.
Since I don't know too much about gambling, and I know you don't gamble at all, you're already 25% behind, so you're giving her 25% of the chance, because you gotta win for it. So.
Look at the
I'm just telling you.
stats. Look at the stats through
Well,
this whole
I
playoff.
hope the Lightning win, but I'm
Look
just
at the
telling you,
look at the
that's a bad bet
stats
to
through
make.
this whole
You
playoff.
got 25% already against you.
Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn. File receive. Receive file.
Receive and file.
Before we leave, I kept it short, but Councilman Goods mentioned something about a victim of senseless gun violence. How old was this person? 21 years.
2022, okay, well, yeah, because she was friends with Celine's daughter, yeah.
So we have a murder, one of many. We have an affordable housing crisis. We have a homeless crisis. We have so many issues that we need to focus on in this city instead of all this fighting and all this nonsense. That it's, when the general public sees everything, I'm talking about the big picture, they get a bad taste in their mouth. That what we assume or what is not going on in City Hall, we cannot continue like this.
I agree with Mr. Maniscalco.
So, I don't know what to say earlier, but, enough. And I'm talking about everybody.
I understand, and I agree with you.
So, that's it. Move to receive and file.
Thank you.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Y'all don't mind? You adjourned?
Please. I have a question. I'm not sure if it's directed to the staff or to the owner, but was the property originally, when it was included in the district, that it was noted that it was like a